Hi, this is Danielle, the domestic scientist, and today I have another kitchen experiment. I have here some fresh jackfruit and I'm going to try it for the first time, and I'm going to attempt to cook it. Now, it is a cook with me. I don't have a recipe. I am going to separate it, cut it, taste it, and then kind of figure out how I'm going to try to prepare it today. Now, I have watched a couple of YouTube videos about it and I've got some slightly conflicting information, so this is definitely going to be an experiment all the way through. So stay tuned. So the first thing about this jackfruit is it is humongous. When I had seen videos on YouTube about it, I didn't really get a really good idea of just how big it was. So I went to my local Indian grocery store and I happened to see one at the store, and it was about 20 plus pounds large. So the lady cut me a fourth of it because I didn't want to buy the full 20 pounds and pay per pound if I didn't know how to use it. I wasn't sure if I was going to like it. I've never had it either fresh or canned. So I am doing a full-blown experiment where everything is a touch and go situation today. So the first thing is I had watched some YouTube videos about how you're supposed to cut it and eat it. And there are a number of different videos out there talking about how to cut it and prepare it. But the most important and consistent thing I've seen is that you should put some oil on your hand because it's very sticky. Now, I put oil on my hand. I hadn't really handled it prior to putting the oil on. I didn't really find it sticky, and it might be because the oil was working. I'm not quite sure. But I only oiled up once. Now, the thing about the jackfruit is it has these really fibrous areas on it, and it kind of holds in the pods. And some videos say that you should take it off and just discard the fibrous part. And then other people actually cook the fibrous part. Now, it is edible, but I'm going to separate the fruit pod from the fibrous part because I'm going to try to cook them separately because I know that they have a different taste. Okay, so I have given the peel to my husband, and he's going to just cut off all the fibrous parts, and I'm going to go ahead and just start slicing the fruit pods. I did get a chance to taste the fruit pod, and it is slightly sweet. It's not super sweet, but it's slightly sweet. Some people describe it as like a cross between a banana and a pineapple, and to me, I can kind of see that description. It does taste, unlike anything I've ever had before, and it does definitely remind me of a pineapple, but doesn't have a strong pineapple taste. Now, that being said, this fruit raw just kind of has a slightly weird texture in my opinion, so I do think this is something I might enjoy a little bit better from a can, but at any rate, it's still delicious, and I'm a little bit leery about cooking it though because it is sweet and I just don't know what benefit I get from cooking this. Now, a lot of people are using the fibrous part as a pulled pork substitute, and I don't know how well it's going to blend with the sweet fruit pod. But at any rate, we're going to start trying to saute up the fruit pod and see how it goes. So I have a simple saute pan from Collab in a non-stick finish that I really like using. It's not too large, so I think it's going to be enough to cook the jackfruit in. I just added a little plain vegetable oil, and I'm stirring it around because I'm looking at the consistency. As the oil starts thinning out, I can kind of eyeball and get a general idea of how hot my pan is getting. So I did turn it on a low to medium heat, and now I'm just adding in the sliced jackfruit, and I like the bright yellow color that it has. So I'm going to start sauteing this. Now, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit nervous about cooking it because the fruit itself was kind of sweet, and I'm not quite sure about how it's going to have that barbecue-like taste or how it would even pair with a barbecue flavored dish. So I'm just going to go ahead and saute it and just see what happens, and I'll kind of figure it out as I go along. So I'm cooking it for a little bit. It is getting a little bit softer. I'm not sure how long I should cook it for, so I'm going to kind of taste it a little bit all the way through and make sure that I give it a good stir. And then as it cooks, I'm going to see if the flavor changes because I don't want to season it prematurely. If it does change flavor as it's cooking, I don't want to put seasonings on it that don't complement the fruit. So I tasted it a little bit. I don't really see how it's going to pair with the pork flavor, but I'm just going to add a little bit of pepper. I haven't added salt yet because I don't feel like it needs any, but I'm just going to add a little bit of pepper and continue to cook it and kind of see how the flavors develop and continue to season it as I go along. So far I like the way the jackfruit is looking. It is very sweet, tastes like a mango, and I'm not really sure about how I'm going to proceed with the flavoring. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to the side, and then I'll start working on the fibrous part. And once I kind of see how that goes, then I'll come back to this pan. So now I'm going to start tackling the fibrous parts of this jackfruit. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get out my large saute pan, and this one is from Calphalon, and it's nonstick, and I absolutely love it. I put in a little bit of vegetable oil, and as I see it thinning out, I'm going to come in with some Worcestershire sauce, and I'm not going to use too much. Now I don't measure anything, so I kind of just put it in. I'm going to let it heat up a little bit because I want to make sure it thoroughly cooks. It has a little bit of a vinegary like quality, and I definitely want to make sure that some of that vinegar taste starts to cook off and evaporate. So I'm going to put it on for a few minutes, and then I'm going to go ahead and start dumping in the jackfruit. Now I let my husband chop this up a little bit, and it looks like he just mostly removed it from the peel, and he didn't really give it, you know, any kind of consistency when it comes to chopping. So some parts are much bigger than others, and so I'm just going to dump it all in because this is an experiment and we're just going to see how it goes. Now after I do my first run of using this, then I'll kind of rethink it and kind of learn from it, and then maybe decide how I want to use it again in the future. Now it does look a little bit weird at the beginning, and it kind of looks like a bunch of old onion peels, but it does taste good. So I'm gonna go ahead, put this in the pan and put it on a medium to low heat. And I did notice that there's some yellow pieces of the fruit pod in there as well, and I'm not even gonna try to separate them because, you know, it's all a part of the same fruit. So for me, I think it's okay. I'm just going to continue to let this simmer, and we'll see how it's coming along. Now I am going to add just a little bit of this Creole seasoning on top of this concoction, and I'm going to let it cook for a few minutes. I'll see what the consistency looks like, and then I'll start tasting it a little bit as I go along. Okay, so now that I'm giving it a quick stir, I'm going to go ahead and start building up some more flavors, and I'm going to use some dried chipotles. Now this is my first time using dried chipotles, so I really don't know what to expect, but I am just going to take one of these. I do understand that they're going to be a little bit spicy. I believe that's actually a smoked jalapeno, but I'm not sure. So I'm just going to take a little bit of it and chop it up and give it a really rough chop, and then I'm going to put it right down into the liquid so that it can simmer and soften up. And then I'm just going to push some of the jackfruit on top of it so that it gives a nice covering, and it does have a chance to cook down a little bit because I don't want it to be too chewy or too spicy. I don't want hot spots in my dish, so I want to make sure it cooks nicely. Okay, so I am continuing to let it simmer, and I'm letting a lot of the excess fluid evaporate. And as the fluid evaporates, I will continue to look at the tenderness of the jackfruit and kind of determine if I want to continue to cook it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add some cardamom to this dish. Now cardamom is my absolute favorite spice. I put it in a lot of things, and I don't know if it's going to pair well, but I'm just sprinkling it on now, and we're going to see how it comes out. So now that I've added some cardamom, I'm thinking about really giving it a dynamic flavor profile. So I'm going to come in and add some smoked paprika. Now smoked paprika is probably my second favorite spice. It does add a nice earthy, smoky quality to any dish. It adds a vibrant color, and it just gives it something unique. So I'm going to sprinkle that right on top of my cardamom, and it's going to have a nice blend. So at this point, I am noticing that a lot of the liquid has started to evaporate, and it is getting very dry, but I can see that the sauces and seasoning are still kind of sitting on top, and it really hasn't sunk into the jackfruit because it hasn't started changing colors. So all those sauces and seasonings don't seem like they have absorbed into the fruit as of yet, which means I am going to cook it for a little bit longer. So I'm also going to add a little bit more jackfruit from earlier on, and I'm going to put some of that in the dish as well. Now, part of the reason why I'm doing it is because the fibrous portion has cooked down a little bit and it's reduced in volume, and I'm not quite sure if it's going to be enough to really make something with. So I'm just going to put some more of those sweeter pieces in and stir it in, see how it comes out. Now, again, this might not be the right move since it does kind of taste like mango, but I'm just going to go with it because I've got nothing to lose. This is an experiment and I'm making it all up as I go along. I'm also going to add another dash of paprika because I don't like the color that I have so far. I want it to be a little bit redder, and so I'm just going to add a little bit more of that. Then I'm going to take that same bowl where I kept the fruit and I'm going to put a little bit of water in it, and what that's going to do is it's going to get some of that sticky sugar from the jackfruit off the bottom of the bowl, and it's going to mix in with the water, and I'm going to pour that right on top of the jackfruit to give it a little bit more volume so that we can cook it and steam it down a little bit more. I'm going to put a lid on it to help it steam, and then I'm going to check it again in just a few minutes. And I think I'm going to go for a little more water too. We want to get all of that good flavor into this dish. And I'm looking at it, I'm getting a lot of good steam coming out the sides of this pot lid, and that means this jackfruit is getting nicely steamed. So hopefully it'll get softer and start to absorb the flavors and change color a little bit. I'm not sure how long to leave it in, so I'm going to continue to check it periodically. Okay, so it has been simmering for a little bit and it is really starting to look more like a dish. I can tell that those fibrous bits are starting to turn brown and they are taking up some of the seasonings that I have put in, and I'm liking the way it's looking so far. I think we might have a dish on our hands. So now I just have to figure out what I'm going to do with it once it's done. Okay, so a lot of people try to make a pulled pork like sandwich with the jackfruit, and that is what you see most commonly when you're looking for jackfruit recipes. Now, initially I was going to try one too, since I'm a rookie at doing this, and I figured it would be easier to just kind of do what everybody else has done. However, today I'm going to be different and step a little bit outside the box, simply because I don't have any bread left in my house. Now, I have been working on several YouTube videos and I've been making some French toast because that's kind of what I'm binging on with my husband. So I don't have any bread left in the cupboard, so I'm reaching for these Mission tortilla wraps that I have, and I always keep these on hand. So I'm going to go ahead and make a quesadilla out of these, and I think that this will be just as good. So I have a 10-inch fry pan from Collab, and I think I got this for Home Goods on sale a couple years ago, but it's a nice stainless steel fry pan and I do like it because it is very wide. It has a good surface area and it will be really good for frying. Now, to make a good quesadilla, you want to use a butter, simply because when you use the butter, it gets soaked up into the tortilla and gets nice and crispy. So you want to cook it low and slow. Then at the last minute, I decided to add some green onions to this dish. Now, what I did was I took that same plate where I had the jackfruit on there and I cut the green onions right on top of that, because it has a little bit of that sticky sugar and a little bit of that sap from the jackfruit on the plate, and I want all that goodness to get soaked up into those onions. So I dumped them into the pan. I gave them a quick stir. Now, I always like to use my green onions raw, because if I am frying like a sandwich or a quesadilla, they will kind of cook with the heat and they will still retain a lot of their flavor, a lot of the crunch, and they will retain a lot of the color. So that's how I prefer to cook them. Now, for my cheese, I'm using just some plain shredded cheddar, just because it's what I have on hand, and I think it's going to pair well because cheddar does typically go well with a lot of things. Now, for my quesadilla wraps, I do like to fry them on the inside and the outside because I want it to be nice and crispy and golden all the way around. It just adds to the richness of the quesadilla. I put down a layer of cheese, I put down my layer of jackfruit, and then I sprinkle it with a little more cheese, and I'm going to fold it up and just let it cook slowly in this pan, and these should come out well. I'm super excited about trying them, and my husband is about ready to eat, so I'm not going to worry about cooking up the rest of this right now. We're going to taste these two, kind of see how it does, and then if we like it, we will continue to cook up the rest off camera. But right now I'm super excited about the way it's coming together and the way that it's looking so far. Okay, so here is the final result, and I have to say this kitchen experiment was a smashing success. Now, there were some ups and downs a little bit for me, and I'll kind of go over that. First of all, I think the jackfruit does very well. The fibrous part, if you cook it down and you put some good seasonings on it, it's going to take whatever flavor that you've seasoned it with. It doesn't really have a very strong taste. It's mild and it's sweet. The fruit part, though, still to me, no matter what I did, the fruit part really tastes like mango. So if you're into mixing sweet and savory, then you would love having more fruit to your fibrous portion of the jackfruit. But for me, I'm not really one who likes to mix too much sweet with savory. I do it from time to time, but it's not really my favorite thing to do. So that being said, if I was to do this again, I would actually shoot to use either a canned fruit, which I think is going to be a little bit more bland and a little less sweet, or I would just cut back on using so many of the fruit pods. Now that's my personal take on it, but like I said, it did turn out very well. So well, in fact, that I wanted to shoot more footage of it and photograph it a little bit longer, but my husband was ready to eat. He had taken his 2 quesadillas and went on. So I would say that it did turn out well. Now at this point, I'd like to hear from you. Leave a message in the box below and let me know what you think of my jackfruit video, and if you have any suggestions on how to use it in the future. As always, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I'll see you next time.